702 Vapors. Today I am going to show how we wrap coils and wicks, starting with the oxidizing of the wick. I cut a sheet of 400 mesh. It's approximately 1 inch by, let's say, 2. I didn't measure, I just cut. I have a sheet sitting over here, so we're just gonna go from there. You can't really see these on video, I'm sure, but I've got strings coming off all around. The way I do them, I don't think Philip does them quite like that. What I do is typically I'll fold over the end, just the side. It'll end up being the trailing side of the wick. Fold it over completely onto itself, so once you roll the coil into it, or the wick into it, there will be no hairs coming out the end of it. So we're gonna go ahead and move the camera down so I can show you kind of what I'm doing, so you can kind of see a little bit better what's going on, and we'll just start from there. So I've got my small sheet of mesh here. Like I said, I typically fold the edge. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna take approximately 1/4 of an inch of the mesh. I'm just gonna fold it over, make the trailing edge nice and clean, so that when I roll the wick this way, or the wick into this trailing edge, like I said, there will be no little hairs. So when I fold it over like so, I'm just gonna kind of push it down. I'm gonna make sure it's nice and tight. Just use my nail, kind of run it across that edge. Now there's no chance of hairs sticking off this side. So when we actually finish rolling the thing out and wrapping the wick, or the coil, we're gonna be good. You can kind of see right there how it's nice and clean. The easiest way to do this in the beginning is with a paper clip. Once you get good at doing this, you're not gonna need the paper clips. You'll be able to roll them freehand. But I'm gonna straighten this paper clip out a little bit. I'm gonna kind of use it as my rolling guide on actually rolling out my wick. You can kind of see how I got that paper clip nice and straight. Well, straight enough for what I'm attempting. I'm just going to kind of lay the wick into it. I'm going to start rolling, not on the folded edge, on the edge that's not folded. I'm going to start rolling into that a little bit. Kind of give it a little bit of a fold, and just kind of roll it from the center here. You can kind of see how I'm just taking and rolling that. This is obviously, this wick is way too long as it sits right now to go into it, into the Zen Standard, but it's starting to roll. So we're just going to use the pressure of our hands, and we're going to kind of force that guy together a little bit. I don't typically roll wicks like a straw. Some people talk about straw wicks, wicking juice is better. There was an interview with P. Busardo and Zen where Zen basically said, you know, mesh doesn't actually wick, it's more of a juice conduit to the actual coil. I'm kind of a firm believer of that. I don't believe that it actually wicks through the mesh itself. Some people disagree. To each his own. I typically run an isolator in them for the simple fact the man himself has said that the aluminum, or I'm sorry, the stainless steel that's used in the mod itself is non-oxidized. It's not anodized, it has no coatings on it. So basically, if you don't run an isolator, there's a good possibility of causing a short at the top deck of the actual device itself with the wick, which is basically going to ruin your vape, in my opinion. I know a lot of Zen Fidels out there. They don't run the wick isolators anymore because, I mean, they've gotten to the point of where they know how to oxidize coil or wicks, know how to make coils. They're not too worried about it. There's talk about sub-ohm coils being dangerous. Depending on your battery, your actual maker of your battery will have information on what kind of amperage limits that battery has. Alright, anyways, now we can kind of see what we got going on here. Here's the hand that everyone does, help with autofocus a little bit. Here, let me get the ring out of there, I might mess it up. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take it out of the paper clip. I'm gonna go ahead and continue rolling it a little bit so that we can make it a little bit tighter, because like I said, I like a real tight wick. When I make an unoxidized wick, I'll go ahead and leave that fold out of there so you can see what I'm talking about exactly. Probably be another video. So anyways, at this point, like I said, I am gonna run an isolator. I am not running the standard, I don't know if it's a rubber isolator or plastic that goes actually around the wick itself before it goes into the mod or into the hole for the atomizer. Right now, that drops in there quite nicely. It's a little bit smaller than the hole, which I prefer. We get that on camera. It's a little bit smaller than the actual hole that's inside that top deck. I am going to run an isolator just because I don't want to risk it. I mean, if the mod maker himself suggests using them, it's not only to make it user friendly, but it's also to protect your batteries. I've got this gigantic torch standing here, 16.4 ounce propane Coleman on a Burns-O-Matic torch that you can pick up at most home improvement stores. Big valve on the side to open the gas, trigger to start it up. No need for the lighters and all that. Open it up till I hear the hiss, pop the flame. I'm going to start to light this up. I want it to get nice and red hot, evenly all the way down the length of the wick. This is going to build up a layer of oxidization on the stainless steel so that it won't short out. I'm going to dip this in a bowl of water I have on the table after I've made sure that I've gotten it all pretty nicely evenly heated up. Which I'm going to do right now. Get a little bit of a sizzle out of it. So now I'm going to go ahead and heat it back up. It's got water in it, so it's going to take a little bit longer to heat. A little bit longer to get red hot. It's faster on blowtorch than it is on a stove, I can tell you that right now. I'm going to run out of gas. It's alright. Get that puppy red hot again. Bring it back down, quench it. One more time if we can get it out of the torch before I have to replace the propane cylinder. Maybe.
The force is with you.
I hope so. My lightsaber J-Wrap force better be with me. Alright, there we go. We're glowing. Oxidizing on a stove is going to meet the exact same. You're going to want to light the metal up red hot with a stainless steel wick, red hot all the way through, and quench it until it stops sizzling. Now that I've got my wick oxidized fully, I'm going to have to work that isolator onto it. What I am going to run for an isolator, basically I took a 3 ohm standard resistance cartomizer apart. Inside of that cartomizer, that'll be another video how to get this. Inside of that cartomizer will be this material. It's a tube. I'm not exactly sure what the make of it is. It could be some kind of a silica. Not really positive. But it's a small tube. It works really well for this. Everything I run currently has an isolator unless the wick itself is not made of stainless steel. It's actually quite a bit longer than the actual distance from the top of the top deck to the bottom of the top deck. You can see it sticking through the tank there, and it's flush with the top deck. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and clip that off. Basically what I'm going to do, slide it so it's just barely coming out the bottom of the top deck right there inside the tank, and I'm going to clip off this 1/4 of an inch approximately. I'm just going to go ahead and pinch it with my fingernails. That'll give me a pretty good cut depth. Even cut just a touch shorter than that. Pull out my trusty little scissors out of my kit. Clip that guy off, let it fly over there. Now we're going to be sitting at under 1/2 inch for total distance, total length of that isolator. Just gonna check it one more time. All right, cool. We're just barely exposed on the top and bottom. Grab my pick real quick, just pull it out of there. Got all these tools for my rebuildables. Alright, pull that guy out of there. Most people at this point are going to juice burn their wick. Typically I don't do that. I kind of find it pointless. More burning. You can, from what I've been told, over oxidize wicks, mesh. For me, I try and do it just to the point of where it's completely blackened evenly. I don't have the tools to actually test this, which is part of the reason that I will run the isolators. Most people will take a specific kind of multimeter, a tone multimeter. I'm not exactly sure what they're called. Basically, touch one end, touch the other end. If it makes a tone, you have an open short. With the isolator, you shouldn't have to worry about that. I'm gonna go ahead and slide that back down into the tank. You do not want that to touch the bottom, like I said, so I'm gonna go ahead and slide this isolator down just a little bit more. Now when I slide it back into the tank itself, I'm gonna put it till it's exposed on the bottom. It's not really showing on the top. You probably can't see that real well in the video. The wick is not touching the bottom deck of the atomizer. You may be able to see right there. Is not touching the bottom deck. You do not want that to touch the bottom deck. In the beginning, when wrapping your own coils, you're going to want to take, I've got approximately 3 inches, 2.5 to 3 inches of 32 gauge Canthal. In the beginning, use a little bit more just so you don't end up running out and bringing yourself to a lower ohm with using less wire. I always say more is better. What I do is I slide the coil itself right down basically between the wick and the ground screw right through here. I don't go on the outside of it. I do not want that to touch the actual cap. So I run it down between the positive post, the tall post, and the negative screw right through here. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in there. You may not be able to see this very well on the video. Very small piece of wire. So go ahead and slide it through that gap under that screw, and I'm gonna let it come off of the end of the top deck here. Typically what I will do is fold it over the top deck with my finger. That will assist me in holding the actual coil wire in the correct position, and I will tighten down my top screw, or my bottom screw, my negative post screw. I make them nice and snug. I don't tighten them down like He-Man just because I don't want to break them off. And I will leave that end on there until I'm completely done wrapping my coil on this wick. I'm going to run probably a 4 wrap around this wick. The way Zen has shown to do this is typically the way that I do it, by twisting the entire mod instead of just grabbing the wire and twisting it around the wick. It gives me the proper tension on the wire that I want for good connectivity with the actual wick so that the juice is touching the coil. You don't want any gaps between the coil wire and the wick itself. So the way that I will do that is like I said, by twisting the actual device. I will hold that coil wire and I'll flip it over. And now work it down. I want to keep it kind of low at this point and snug, not too tight, not too loose. On a 3 or 4 wrap, we're going to go a pretty good distance between the actual wraps on the coil. See me grab that wire there. Because I want it to be about even. Bless you.
Thank you.
I want it to be about even with the actual screw for the positive connection. I do not want it to jump straight from halfway down the wick up to the top cap, the top screw, the positive screw. I want it to go ahead and have some good evenness with that. Right now I am at what I count as a 4 wrap. I don't count the bottom wrap where it goes from the negative screw to the coil as a wrap. I start counting from the one above that. So I would count this as a 4 wrap currently. I don't go under the, what would that be, clockwise side of the screw itself. I bring it back over the screw and then under, like this. The reason that we do that is so that when I tighten this screw down, it's not going to be trying to pull that wick further into this top post. Because again, much like in the tank, I don't want that wick to actually touch this post. That is where my electricity is flowing through. If this wick touches that, there's a possibility of having a short there, which will create hot spots or poor vapor production. I'm going to go ahead, pull this wire pretty snug. Not snug enough to pull my actual wick into that cap, and I'm going to hold it down with my thumb like I did with the bottom. Now what I'm going to do is just go ahead and tighten that screw down, snug it up. You don't need to be He-Man when you're tightening these things. I mean, we are dealing with fairly expensive products. I haven't run into too many hybrids, sub $200. There's a few out there. I haven't personally used too many that are in the sub $200 range. I don't want to damage it and have to send it back for repairs. Right now, before I actually burn this thing, before I actually start pulsing it to get the hot spots out of the coil, I'm just going to go ahead and adjust these coils a little bit. I want them to be really even. The more even they are, the more even the heat's going to be across the positive and negative area of that coil, which is going to provide a better vapor. If you've got them too close together in 2 spots, or in one spot 2 of the coils are really close and the other spots are really far apart, you're going to be overheating one small spot and underheating the other spot, which is going to provide you kind of poor vapor production. Before I clip anything off, the top wire, I'm just going to go ahead and make sure isn't touching anything. It's just kind of trailing off on its own. The bottom wire, the negative wire, again, isn't touching anything, trailing off. And I've got a battery in this, an 18650 already, that should be pretty close to a full charge. I'm going to go ahead and start heating this up. Right now it's sizzling due to having a little bit of water left in it. I'm going to go ahead and heat this guy up. Oh, I'm seeing some hot spots there. When I touch the button, top coil heated up real well. Then the bottom and top connections where the most heat was. I'm not going to really make any adjustments at this point. I'm just going to kind of heat it. Yeah, I'm getting a real good short right down here on the bottom. When I push the button, it lights up in a very, very small spot. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my pick. I use a dental pick for this. Some people will use needles, syringes. Some people will use little thumbtacks or pins. For me, that's not really feasible. Again, I'm kind of chasing this bottom one around. I'm seeing it get hot in one very small spot. So I just want to kind of nudge that coil a little bit. Basically, I'm just trying to open up the channel for the electricity to flow. I actually might have just gotten it good, because now we're getting some heating across the entire coil while I'm holding the button.
Can't see it.
While I'm holding the button, now you can see it's actually shorting again from the top straight through to the bottom. So I'm just going to kind of fiddle with these guys a little bit. Again, we're getting a good even heat across the entire coil right now. And when I hold the button, it starts to light up in these center 3 wraps more than it does on the outer 2. By adjusting this coil, by bumping it around ever so slightly while trying to keep it as even as possible, you'll even out that heat across all of the wraps on the coil itself. So anyways, when I'm bumping this right now, I'm actually holding the button. I'm getting a good even heat. I'm not sure how well you can see that on camera. We're getting a good even heat across 3, the middle 3, which is where I like to be. After I fill this with juice, we're going to have to play with it a little bit more, search for more hot spots. Obviously, it's going to get warmer on the top long before it gets warm on the bottom. and the reason for that is the juice actually flowing through the wick. So we're just going to kind of bump it around a little bit more and try and bring the heat a little bit lower if we have to. I mean, this could be that one coil that you wrap and you never have to touch. You never really know. I'm going to pinch these wires and give them a little bit of a twisty. They're going to pop right off. If you don't have your screws tight enough at this point, you're going to find out real quick when you go pull on that and your wick comes out. I'm also going to go ahead and take my trusty scissors, which I don't use for anything but mods. I'm going to clip this guy off right there, let it kind of go flying. Like I said before about having the straw down the actual wick, I will go ahead and attempt to keep this top open after I clip it by pinching it the opposite way, just to allow juice to flow a little more evenly. I typically use my hemostats. My fingers are a little bit bulky for all that, or my roach clip, whatever you want to call it. And we just pinch the two spots that I pinched together with the scissors. Open that up a little bit. You most likely will not be able to see that, the hole in the center of that actual wick. Hold on. I'll bump that camera a little bit, get it going for you. There is actually a hole that runs the entire length of that wick. That's going to allow the juice to flow through the wick itself to the top and work its way out to that coil. Usually when I'm filling these, I'm not filling them to fullest capacity. I'm usually leaving a little gap across the bottom of the top deck. I'm not sure if that really does anything. That's just, for me, it feels right. Also, there's a little droplet left on the tip of the needle. I'll go ahead and put that across the coil and wick just to help get it a little wet with juice up top. I'm going to go ahead and hold both of the pins together to show what exactly our difference is.
0.4.
0.4.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is when we actually test
0.3, 0.4.
Yeah, once we actually test the coil, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 0.4 from the total.
No, it's holding at 0.3.
Okay, I'm going to subtract 0.3 or 0.4, whatever I feel like at the time now. When I actually meter the coil, and that'll give us our ohms of the coil itself. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and touch the negative black lead to the negative post. I'm going to touch the positive lead to the positive post, not push the button or anything. What are we reading?
2.4.
We got a 2.4 coil. This is a very, very cool coil. It'd be great if I could variable voltage or kick this. 2.4 is a little bit on the high side for 3.7 volt batteries.
So you're actually technically running about 2.1.
Oh yeah.
2.1.
So, I mean, that's a little bit on the high side for a standard like this with a 3.7 volt battery at its highest charge of 4.2 volts.
You want to knock the coil off?
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm probably going to end up popping one of those coils, one of those wraps off of the coil. In order to do that, most people will say, you know, I probably should have left that long end on it. Most people will say you don't ever want to touch the top screw after you get a coil wrapped. Again, I fully disagree with that. I've never seen anything that shows that that will change anything. We're going to go ahead and pull one wrap. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen this top screw. I wrapped that wick wire around this way, not around the other way, so it's going to be kind of a bear to get off of there. Bust out your dental pick if you've got one, or your needle, or whatever you've got. Kind of grab it and try and pull it off of there without breaking it. I mean, we've already kind of tempered this metal. We've heated it and cooled it a few times. So there's a real good possibility it could break right now. In which case, we just go ahead and bust some more 32 off the roll, wrap another coil. But I was able to do it pretty successfully. Like I said, I'm going to pull that kind of tight. I'm actually going to do it with my hemostats, which are under the ohm meter. I like to have a little bit of extra grab room. Sorry, don't move the camera around too much. I'll move myself. Grab it onto it with the hemostats and kind of pull it a little bit tight while I wrap it around that top post. Make sure that your coils don't have any major gaps between the actual wrap and the wick. You want it touching, you don't want it pinching. So right now I'm just looking at them, they all look nice and even. They're not pinching the actual wick in any spot. So I'm gonna just go ahead, tighten that bad boy down, like so. Take my hemostats back off of there, recheck this coil, make sure it looks nice and even. Currently it's pretty close. The bottom two wraps are a little bit tighter together than the top two, but that's okay for what we're doing right now. Learn from my mistakes, don't make my mistakes. That's what these videos are for. Again, touch the negative to the, or the black to the negative, red to the positive. Can you see the mod?
Yep.
We're gonna go ahead and meter this out.
1.6 minus 3, so about 1.3.
1.3 is going to be a good warm coil. Start bumping this, look for hot spots. A little bit of a hot spot there on the bottom. Bottom leg, top leg are going to be your two most common spots for hot spots. I'm actually getting a little bit of a short in it right now. The reason for that, I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, it's closest to the actual connection point. You want your distance from the wick to the connection point as small as possible. The longer that leg is, the more possibility you're going to have for a hot spot in the actual wick. When you're vaping on this, if your middle coils are nice, no hot spots in them, but they're heating, but your top leg and bottom leg are a hot spot, when you take a vape from this, you're going to get that burnt addy taste, which you don't want. It's going to cause you to cough. It feels horrible in your lungs. If you vape one flavor, like I vape bobas almost 100% of the time, except for when working and things. That's a story for the bar later. You'll notice taste differences when you're actually taking your vape from it. I don't do lung hits. Philip does. More power to him. That's what he wants to do. I think he's crazy. Reason I say that is because if you get a hot spot pop up in your coil and you're lung hitting it, it's bringing that burnt addy taste straight to your lungs. It burns more. I'm kind of a sissy, so I don't care for that. Anyways, I'm tipping this guy and I'm checking it for hot spots. Getting a warmer spot on the top leg, but it's not burning right now. Getting pretty good vapor from it. Nothing amazing. Not the best. I'll bust off that little bit of wire I got sticking out of the top there. Throw my top cap on it and give it a try. When you put this top cap on, make sure, especially for your first vapes, that air hole is directly over your wick. I actually heard somebody discussing this last night where they said, oh, it doesn't add to the throat hit when you offset the hole. That is not true in my opinion. If you offset this, you will get such a throat hit and such little vapor production, most people can't stand it. I vape these 100% of the time with my air hole directly over my wick. Kind of a pain on these mods actually in the dark. You can't see that air hole. It's very hard to feel. It's a very small hole. If that's offset and you go take a vape, you're gonna know. So when I slide that on there, I give it a twist while I'm pushing it on. Make sure that air hole right there is lined up pretty well with that wick. A little bit of juice on that tank so you can't see it so well. Make sure that air hole right there is lined up nice and even. So when you take your vape, you're gonna hold your mod like so. Best flow of juice to the coil. Your air hole is in the right position, and when you take a vape, you're not gonna die. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a vape from this and see what we get. This is that 32 gauge that we just wrapped. pretty good vapor production. This is one of the reasons I love these hybrid mods. These Genesis atomizers, they vape really well. My first experience with these was an AGAT on a chrome lava tube, version 1, Lambo V4. Everybody's named it something different. It was a horrible experience. Me and Philip played with it for days. Never really got it. We looked up review videos. They were horrible. That's for everybody that loves Grim Green. I watch Grim Green's videos all the time. My experience was horrible with Genesis atomizers altogether. Hybrid mods were completely out of the question at that point. The expense of a hybrid mod for a Genesis atomizer, which I had such poor performance with off of the AGAT, ruined them for me 100%. I had the opportunity to pick up, it was an iHybrid limited edition, which I no longer have, a very short time ago, only a few months ago. I wrapped a coil on it. I vaped it. It vaped well for my first hybrid mod with my first coils wrapped. It was a really good vape. I brought it to a vape meet, the local vape meet here in town. I had a guy there. Most people would know him, Jazz Cardo Pipes, Jazz E Pipes. He threw me some ribbon Canthal and said, "Here, try this." I had one of the local guys wrap a coil on it that's been doing Genesis for a long time. It's pretty cool. It wrapped really well. It heated more evenly than anything I've seen. Loved it. However, good vapor production. However, my issue with it was that I found out on the Zen in particular, off of the ECF in the Zen Family Reunion Forum, was that I was actually running a sub-ohm coil, which means below 1 ohm. I never thought anything of it. The issue is that at sub-ohms, there's the possibility of drawing from your battery. Basically, it's drawing too much power from your battery. Can cause issues that way. Issues you can run into off of lithium batteries is that they can go into their thermal state, and basically they try venting. When a battery vents, it's never something you really want in your hand. I've never had it happen to me in a mod. I've had batteries go thermal on me in RC cars from damage to the actual battery. I mean, physical impacts to the battery. I've never had it happen to me, thank God, on a mod. So I was told, you know what, don't run sub-ohm. Some people preach sub-ohm is the best vape. It was a good vape. I'll give it that. It was a real good vape. I'm not willing to risk my own health and safety by running sub-ohm coils. Since then, I've stuck primarily to 32 gauge Canthal, which is what is recommended in the Genesis devices by the maker himself. It's what he sends with every one of his devices currently. I know there's some talk in the future of him switching out to different wicks. I don't know about different wires, different coils, whatever. But 32 and stainless steel is where I'm sticking. Currently, it vapes the best out of everything I've tried. I had some stuff the other day. It was a braided ceramic tubing. At first, it vaped really well. Flavor was great. I didn't have to worry about oxidizing my coils or my wicks. I didn't have to worry about running an isolator, which is actually what came out of this, was that ceramic tubing. After a couple of days of vaping on it, the flavor started to change. And it got really, really weak. It got a really funky flavor to it, like the ceramic tubing actually burnt a little bit. It wasn't really where I was at. I didn't like it. At first it was great, like I said, but after a short while, I was like, no. I looked into purchasing more of it, thinking, well, I mean, if it's a great vape at first, maybe I'll just justify the cost. From what I've seen, it's not cost effective. I want to say, granted it was for 50 feet. 50 feet's enough to last you a lifetime. I want to say the pricing on 50 feet was somewhere around $400. Not interested in paying that kind of money for it. It was a good vape, but I can order my stainless steel mesh and my Canthol for under $20, and that's enough to last me a really long time. Yeah, a year, maybe more. Currently, on like the coil and wick I just made, I mean, we showed you how to oxidize it. We showed you how the first method of oxidizing, anyway, the first method of wrapping a coil, running an isolator. Back in the day, when I was running my AGAT on that lava tube chrome, rewrapping a coil and wick, no big deal, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Much like a lot of people right now at Genesis don't know what they're doing, and they want to know. It was not a big deal. It vaped like crap 90% of the time. Right now, I'm at that point where everything I wrap, get Phil's vape out of the way. Everything I wrap right now, I'm not going to say it's golden, but everything I wrap is workable. I do have to play with them from time to time just to get them to where I want them. By them, I mean coils, of course. But it's vaping really well most of the time. I mean, that's my Zen standard. This is my Z-ADU on the iTaste MVP, running at 5 volts.
And the wick and coil has been on there for what, 2 days, 3 days?
It vapes almost as well. It's hell, I think this one's longer than 2-3 days. This one's going on 2 weeks, a week, somewhere in there. I mean, it's really, I took a lot of time when I'm wrapping these. I don't know if you can see the coil on that guy. It's pretty even most of the way through. It's one of the 325 stainless steel mesh pre-rolls that comes with almost every Zen product at this time. To me, it vapes just as well. This is my go-to most of the time. I will run this atomizer on my lava tube V2 a lot. I love my lava tube V2 for variable voltage. I'll have a whole review video on this iTaste MVP at some point. It's a pretty nice box mod for a no frills box mod, but we'll get into that in another time. Right now it's kind of my go-to. I carry it with me on the weekends. My lava tube's with me all week long. But anyways, Zen products, I love them. They're great. I hope to have more of them. Currently I have 4. There will be reviews on those as well. Sidewinder. Sidewinder's a really cool mod. We'll get into that one. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you stuck with me till the end. Even though my opinions don't mean anything to anybody, hopefully I can help some people wrap a coil in different ways. Make a wick in different ways. Phil's going to have some great videos coming up on the channel as well soon, I'm sure. He's got different mods than me for the most part. So, we'll see you again. Thanks for watching.